Hey LinkedIn, I saw this morning somebody shared I guess the story grid or how JK Rowling puts together her stories or her books, and it caught my attention. I was kind of looking at it, and it was done in essentially a grid where it showed the date, like the sequence of the date through the story, and then it showed the title, and then it showed, essentially the topic or the subject of what was going on, and then it showed the prophecy, and then it showed various different parts, and there was this whole grid, and it was like broken down where essentially she could follow the grid and start writing and populating the story. And I thought about that in terms of, sales, and in terms of the end-to-end sales journey, because we deal with the end-to-end sales journey, and we take our customers through pre-sales and sales enablement and training the sales team, training the team overall, internal communication, and customer experience, and taking responsibility for that entire journey. And it's relevant because it is like a story. And when you think about writing a story and following that customer journey, following that customer story all the way through, it would be strange to cut off at certain points. And when you say, well, what happens next or what happens after that, I don't really know. And we've had that. We've talked to customers, for example, where maybe there's a trade show, they have a trade show going on or something like that, and you have that component part of the pre-sales and the marketing side of things. And we say, well, what happens after the trade show? Like, where do they go from the trade show? Like, let's say you capture this lead, where does it go? Yeah, I don't know. That's over to sales or something. And really what you would want would be a cohesive, sort of intuitive journey that's linear, that goes through the complete story of the customer coming in, like getting the attention of the customer coming in, the customer routing over to sales, the sales team being trained to do it the right way, taking the customer through the sales journey, the internal team performing the way they need to perform, and then the customer experience through that entire journey happening the way it needs to happen, right? And so that then the customer goes through the organization, comes back and either re-signs or wherever they go, and then the story continues. And when you think about it in terms of a story, it should help you complete every component part. And I essentially do think about it that way. And you want to look at, is the story incomplete in some way? Where does it hand over? Does it get stuck? Does it stop? Does it leave you wondering what happens next? And that kind of helps guide you on where you need to fill in that journey, and what you should be doing next to make sure that things are connected and flowing. And I think in many cases, especially with a bigger company, it can get a little fragmented and it won't be connected. And I've quite literally had conversations with people and said, well, what happens like once it does come in, or when it goes here? And they say, yeah, I don't know. Or that's not my job, maybe. And so you want to kind of catch those little gaps so the story continues and it's very fluid. But it's an interesting idea to think about it that way and write it out that way, to make sure that you have, you don't have the audience or the customer essentially lost within the story, and so kind of a funny little analogy, but it made me think about that, because it is, are there any pockets or areas of the story where it's incomplete? And in many cases, I've spoken to literally, certainly hundreds, possibly thousands of people at this point related to the end-to-end B2B sales journey, sometimes for enterprise sales. And it is fascinating how many little component parts need to get done. And even when you look at selling, when you get a new lead over to sales, do you have every single thing that the sales team needs to follow that journey along, follow that story all the way along? Is the customer going to look at every single component part? No, yes, maybe, I don't know. But we want to make sure that they're prepared with everything. So do we have an objection handling page? Do you have things that handle confidence? Do you have things that handle understanding? Do you have the case study material? Do you have documentaries? Do you have different things that are going to walk them through? Do you have the right decks, the pitch pages? What happens when they onboard? If they are ready? What does onboarding look like? Have you oriented on that? And you start looking at all the component parts and you think, get these in place. Work to make sales easier, work to make the customer experience easier, work to make it more fluid, and things will get more fluid. They'll get faster and better. So, something to think about.